Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here, and I'll be going over the best leader minis to select when first starting the game, which ones are the strongest, easiest to play, and ones that you kind of just want to stay away from. So first off the bat, Rend Blackhand, fantastic pick. Also, none of these are in like an order. I'm just going to pick 5 good ones to start off with. You can pick any of the 5. It's kind of just up to your play style and what you want. There's not just like one best mini. There's just ones that are good, and then there's ones that are bad. So we have Rend Blackhand. This guy is super cool and very, very good. So his leader ability is your other flying troops cost 1 less gold while Rend is in play, but no less than 2. This means any mini basically above 3 is going to get a 1 gold discount. Gold is what you spend to summon units. So things being cheaper means you get to summon more units faster, which is generally really good. Also, Rend comes into battle flying a dragon, so he's a ranged unit that has AoE, and then once they kill the dragon, he actually hops off the dragon and then charges at the first enemy that he sees. He's basically then a melee tank after that. So he has 2 forms, which means he's in battle a decent while and he doesn't just like die immediately, which means you're going to be able to get a lot of value from that discounted gold on your flying units. So ideally you're going to want to build some sort of comp that has quite a few flying units in there to take advantage of his leader ability. But also, just as a leader, he's really good. Number 1, he does AoE and he's a flyer at first, and then 2, he's a tank and he does a good amount of damage. So he just like has 2 really good pros to him. Moving to my favorite mini, just because I love the play style, that's going to be Baron. This guy is super cool because his leader ability is he periodically summons skeletons at buildings you control, which means the more buildings, the more towers, the more hearthstones you control around the map, the more little skeletons you're able to basically summon throughout the match, and you can use this to swarm your opponent. He's also a relatively cheap leader at 4 gold instead of like 5 or 6 like some of the other ones. He's also a fast unit, so he can get to places really quickly, and he does do a decent amount of damage while also having a decent amount of health. I myself like the whole undead skeletons, bring stuff up from the grave, swarm the enemy with basically like undead mages and warriors and plague monsters. So Baron was my first pick. He's done really well for me, and if you pick him, he'll do really well for you. So moving to our 2 horde leaders, both of these guys are just like big, chunky, just you can play their brutes. So you just play them and they do really well. First one's going to be Grommash Hellscream. Again, 4 gold. He's a tank. He does a lot of damage, but what makes him really good is his leader ability. All nearby friendly units gain Bloodlust. Bloodlust means your units attack a lot faster. If you play WoW, you know how important Bloodlust is. Same thing goes for this game. Units that normally don't do a lot of damage all of a sudden are attacking really quickly and doing a lot of damage. So being able to position Hellscream so your other units do get the Bloodlust is kind of important. He's not the hardest leader to use, but there is some strategy there. Also, his talents are really good. So some leaders are just strong, but their talents aren't as strong. This guy is just strong, and both his talents that you can get for him are really good. So Hellscream is definitely very nice. The other horde leader is going to be Cairne. This guy is super sick as well. He costs 5 gold instead of 4, but he has an attack that instead of being single target, he basically attacks everybody in a cone in front of him. He also has a ton of health and does a lot of damage. Again, more bruiser comps, just very strong minis that do things when you play them. This guy's leader ability is Earthen Might. Your horde troops have 20% increased health. This is, like I said, bruisers. You want to play a lot of mid-range heavy units so they can benefit off that 20% so they don't die as easy and they're even stronger. What I like about leader abilities like this is it's really super beginner friendly and it's just good. So if you're looking for the easiest out of all of the heroes we went through, Cairne's just going to be the easiest because he's just a stagnant 20%. And our last mini that we have is going to be Tirion here. 4 gold as well for this guy. He's really nice, as because you can see in the image below. He's going to heal your own teammates, and healing in this game is super underrated in my opinion. There's very few units in this game that either 1 heal themselves or 2 heal other units, and they're really good for PvE. PvP, they're still good, but in the PvE mode, you can really take advantage and do some of the higher end content that you normally wouldn't be able to do because your units can self-sustain themselves when they're like pushing and doing things by themselves. Also, Tyrion's talents are really strong, whether it's Divine Shield Concentration or By the Light. These are very strong. Again, like I mentioned with other leaders and other minis, like their talents, they may have 1, maybe 2 good ones, but never normally 3 really strong talents. Tirion just has very, very strong talents all the way across the board. So definitely a grower and not a shower. I'll also go over all of the other leaders real quick, just in case you wanted to know a little bit about them. But again, in my opinion, they're not as good for a beginner player, not as good to start off for PvE. Getting the leaders is actually not as hard as you think, and I pretty much had a full roster of all of the leaders within, I think, the first week or two that I played. And the only money I've spent on the game so far is just the account permanent boost. I haven't like bought gold or anything like that. So Maiev is for specifically unbound comps because she gets cheaper for every unbound minion that you have. At the start of the game, you're not going to have a lot of unbound minions, and they're not going to be very strong because unbound, you're paying a premium to be able to be placed anywhere on the map. So it's just not a comp that I would recommend a beginner player when you don't have a lot going on to build. Jaina, she just really sucks. She's like really, really bad. Her talents are like okay, but just not even as close to as good as some of the other ones. Also, her benefit to spells of like your spells get increased by 3. This doesn't really matter because you're not playing a lot of spells, because spells don't win games. They help you win games. They're supporting things, but they're not winning. And you want minis that do things that win, and then you want to support the win. With Jaina, there's just no winning. Hogger's a really cool unit because he basically, his movement speed and attack speed get 35% plus each time you play him. However, he's not really good until you get some talents and you've leveled up your beasts a lot. So he's like more of something you want to work towards later in the game, and he's not really so much somebody who's really good just right off the bat for you. We have another beast here. We have Razorflank. She is actually a really interesting hero because she changes the costs of the minis in your hand constantly based on like the previous mini that you played and how your deck is built. Herself is not that strong, but she can make your deck be able to play like 15 to 20 golds worth of stuff below like 6 gold for like giant bursts of just power. Problem is, it's extremely hard to understand, and it's not very beginner friendly at all. So I would not recommend building her until like, again, later in the game when you have a good concept of like how to play the game, minion placement, where to push and how to push. We have Old Murk-Eye, a Murloc here. Leader ability is for 5 seconds after deploying, summon a Murloc Tidehunter for each gold spent on other minis. So essentially you save up to 10 gold. You play Old Murk-Eye, and then you spend 6 gold summoning other minions, which give you a bunch of Tidehunters. Unfortunately, this is not really a great strategy for PvE, and for PvP, it's really easy to play around. So I just don't recommend this guy because there's one way to make him powerful, and the one way to make him powerful isn't very good. So he's just not good. We have General. This guy's leader ability is enemies take 50% more elemental damage when this guy is around. So that's really, really nice because things taking 50% more damage from other elemental stuff is good. However, this guy follows the same thing as later in the game. He's good when you've built up levels, you have all of the minis, and you're able to pick the best basically squad for this guy. But when you're first starting, you don't have access to everything, which makes this guy really weak. Sneed is actually a really interesting hero because he involves basically controlling the maps and obviously generating gold. He gains 2 gold when a siege damage unit destroys a tower, captures a meeting stone, or opens a chest. This is more of a PvP leader in my opinion because depending on how the map is laid out and what that weekly map is, you can really be able to generate tons of gold from this guy. However, I do not recommend doing PvP in this game until way later and your minis are quite high level, which means you don't need this guy off the bat, and the other 5 heroes are just better in my opinion. And the last leader here, we have Blood Mage. This is just a better version of Jaina in my opinion. Thanos gains 1 level for each spell you play upon its death. So you play Blood Mage and then you play a bunch of spells, and each spell you play basically buffs them up. The thing about this is your spells need to be high level because, like I said, spells are supporting things. They don't really just win the game, right? So if you have this one Blood Mage unit out and you're playing a bunch of spells that are like supporting it or helping you clear waves, Blood Mage isn't like, doesn't matter how high this one guy is. Your opponent's polymorph. There's tons of units that deal with casters, right? So this is just another hero that potentially could be good in a specific build way later in the game when your minis are high enough, you've unlocked enough talents, and your spells also have talents. But I do not recommend doing any sort of build like this earlier in the game because you just don't have access to what the leader can fully do. And with that, that's all the leaders. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I covered as much as I could in as short as time as possible, but if you have any particular questions, I'll be happy to answer those, like I said, in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, I'm Robert Warshack. Happy whatever the hell day it is.